Good morning, my friends. How are you? So I just spent the weekend in sub-zero weather up in Vermont. And I want to backtrack about Vermont and my rituals and my commitment to rituals. So a couple of years ago so first of all, Vermont, my husband and I have been going to Vermont since before while we were dating, and his family had a little cabin there. And it was one of these things that, good morning, Heather. It was one of these things that the cabin was um, on land lease. And basically at one point in time, it ended up that the land got sold. So we ended up starting to build as a family a house up there, if you will, a camp, I'm going to call it, I guess. So anyway, we love Vermont. We eloped in Vermont. Vermont has always been a special place for us. And I love it in Vermont. So anyway, we said at I think our 25th wedding anniversary, which was several years ago, we said, how do we spend more quality time together? And we've got kids, and we've got two busy careers and all that kind of stuff. So we're like, what can we do to keep our connection? And I realized at that time, like, that that Vermont's my happy place. Vermont is my husband's happy place. So we made a commitment that we would go once a month for a weekend up to Vermont, just us. So, and we would hold ourselves accountable for only half the year. Like, so on the months that we didn't make it or whatever, no big deal. And he also hunts up there, and there's family, big parties, reunions up there. So there were a couple months that we'd be there that we wouldn't be there alone. Okay. So anyway, we did this. And the first year that we did it, we were there pretty much on a regular basis. We totally, exceeded our goal of getting there at least 6 months. And then last year we made a little revision to it, where we said, all right, what if we took our 1 month, one weekend a month that we go up to Vermont? Because up in Vermont, we're unplugged. We are just doing things. We are like, it's very rustic. It's very relaxing. It's very as I say, the only time that we ever connect with the outside world is, especially now with the pandemic, is when we're out off the grid somewhere where we can pick up a signal and and actually only be able to respond to text messages, because the phone, it's not strong enough of a signal and we can't get our emails. So anyway, so then we say we're going to do one long weekend half the time, right? So that means that a long weekend would happen, I don't know, 3 or 4 times a year. So that was our commitment. And then the pandemic hit. And then it was really hard, because it was, well, we're not supposed to be traveling, and we can't go anywhere when we're up in Vermont, because if we go there, and again, we never really went a lot of places. But so anyways, like, the whole thing kind of transitioned a little bit. And also, there was a lot going on, a lot of emotional connection because of the pandemic to being here. So we didn't want to go. So anyway, and of course, business was crazy busy. So we put all that together, and we didn't stay with our commitment so well last year. Anyway, and again, this is something that I've been driving, and my husband kind of goes along with it. I know I took his phone and I plugged in, the third weekend of the month, but I'm like, organizing it. So he says to me last week, we haven't been to Vermont, you and I. We're not doing our commitment to each other. And I was like, okay, we'll go. And then we look, of course, at the weather, and it's going to be cold up there. But we're like, all right, we're still going. And when I got there, and while I was there, I remembered why it was on my rituals, right? That no-brainer activity that we're supposed to do in order to create that time and money freedom. And this was the why I want time freedom, is because I want to go away like that with my husband, or with my family, either one, but just keeping it real, and not being caught in that busyness trap that I talk about in rituals, that we get caught in this busyness thing, and we think we're too busy, and we're so busy that we just don't have time for whatever is important to us, right? Because that family is my big why. So anyway, we were there, and just a couple moments of magic I want to tell you about. First of all, we snowmobiled, and it was the most beautiful snowmobiling we have ever done. and the conditions were amazing. There was nobody on the tracks. It was absolutely glorious. We talked about like the snow had created on the trees like globs of snow. We're calling them snow globs because they were just like big and hanging, and it was absolutely magical. So we had that. The second was it was not a full moon anymore, but it was a huge moon and the stars. And I always say like the stars are bigger when I'm out there looking up at the sky when I'm in Vermont. And the stars and the moon, it was incredible, you know. And we had said we were going to go cross country skiing. We have about, I don't know, 20 acres of land. So we were going to go cross country skiing around on the land at night. And we were too wiped out that night to do it. But damn it, I wish we did. We did it the next day. It was gorgeous, but it wasn't the same. So we missed that moment, right? That moment of magic that we wanted to create. So those were two parts of the magic. And then the other is, I don't know how to describe it, but it's the air, you know, and it's clean, crisp, cold, this time cold, but it's clean and it's fresh. And I don't know, it's just something that it gives me a hard stop, and I love it. And the last, of course, is not being plugged in, right? So where we have had this really kind of, for me, is like business has been intense, my family has been intense, my commitments have been intense, everything's intense. And I feel like a lot of times I have to be completely plugged in to a lot of people. And to be able to be away and say, you know, I mean, anyway. So what about you? What is it that gives you that kind of feeling, right? What is your like, gosh, what lights your fire? You know, I realized that I wanted to put that in the chat. So I'm putting that out there. What lights your fire? What gives you those kind of feelings that Vermont gives me? And why? I'd love to hear it. And the next thing I want to know is, how are you continuing to nurture that on your rituals? And are you making room for it? You know, making room for that meant that I had to transition out of some of the things else that I wanted to do, you know, with that week. So what about you? And, you know, I have to say, like, being there, lighting that fire within me, kind of brought back alive a lot of things that kind of got set by the wayside when the pandemic hit. You know, if you remember this time last year, and many of you won't remember, but I was like in distress, and I feel like I got into that survival mode, and I was like just trying to make sure that I could get through. And you know, one of my dear friends who's on this, actually, he was after one of my live streams that he reached out to me and he said, "Hey, you've got to like take a rest. You have got to like take it easy." And it was such a good friend thing to do. It was one of those things of, you know, you gotta, like, you're like off the rails, you know. But the interesting thing is that like I got on the rails to survive and to produce and to work, but I didn't get on the rails to like love and enjoy and have my fire lit and realize that the immense joy can come from things again. So I don't know. Take it, you know, and this was not part of our year-end training where we went through and we looked at our review and what went forward and what went back. But I really want you to do it. I want you to just take a look and, you know, and see if we can't, I mean, we can't wait for things to get back to normal. They're not going back to normal. So what about if we try to remember what it is that joy factor that lights your fire, and let's see about putting it back into that schedule. And I don't know, it really, really, really invigorated me, and not even just because it was below zero. All right, my friends, I will see you tomorrow. I am so appreciative of you, and I would love it if you would comment to me and just tell me, what is it that gets you going, and what is it that maybe you want to reconnect with. Thank you so much. Make it an amazing day.